Today is Monday, March 17th, 2025. My name is Mercy Solis. I am interviewing Earvin Gonzalez for the Voces Oral History Center. We are at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, for agreeing to this interview. Just a couple of notes at the top. The raw, unedited recording of this interview will be archived at the Nettie Lee Benson Latin American Collection on the UT campus, where it will be available to anyone who wishes to access it. If there is anything you don't wish to talk about, we respect your wishes. Also, if there is something you want to discuss, please do make sure we discuss it. Please also let us know if you need to pause this interview. Today, we are going to talk about your life experiences. As part of this, we'll be discussing your childhood, your job, and the Baltimore Bridge collapse. Mr. Gonzalez, can you please state your name and title as you'd like to be identified in the oral history?
Thank you for having me. My name is Earvin Gonzalez, and I am the Deputy Director of Services for Central Maryland, Baltimore region at GASA.
And if you're ready, Mr. Gonzalez, let's begin with your childhood. So you didn't grow up in Baltimore, you grew up in California. Can you go ahead and restate that, and what was it like where you grew up?
Yeah, so I came to Baltimore around 2011, but my whole life has been in California before then. I was born down south in Orange County, and when I was about 4 or 5, I moved up north to Visalia, which is, if you don't know, California. It's in the middle of California, and it's a very agricultural farmland. Moved with all my immediate family. It was a little different because growing up, I had all my cousins and everyone who lived down south. So moving up north, we were the only ones there. So that was a big adjustment from seeing all my family daily to seeing them maybe once or twice a month and driving 4 hours to go see them instead of going down the street.
So I know your dad is from Mexico and your mom is from El Salvador. How much family did you have in California?
A lot. My dad is the oldest of 2 younger brothers and a younger sister, and my mom is somewhere in the middle, but she has 13 brothers and sisters. So yeah, all together, every family reunion, we had a lot of family. And on my dad's side, all his family lived here, and then on my mom's side, everyone but 2 or 3 family members that still lived in El Salvador. But growing up, yeah, they all mostly lived here still.
So what school did you attend when you were younger, and what was your experience?
So the school I attended when I was in elementary school, it was called Houston Elementary School, and it was a unique experience because my mom was my teacher. She was my second grade teacher, and then she really liked to have me in class, so she also followed me to 3rd grade. And then from there, so it was funny because all the teachers knew I was her son, so they kept an extra eye on me, which was a little. They always said, "We're gonna tell your mom." I was like, "Oh man!" And then after that, I moved to another school closer to our home because that elementary school we went to was probably 20 minutes away, but it made it easier to commute with my mom to go to her school than the one that was closest.
Do you think she would have followed you to 5th grade?
No, I don't think she would have, because I think afterwards, like, okay, he needs to learn on his own now without me. But I know she probably wanted to.
Can you tell me a little bit about your family? I know you've already mentioned some, but maybe your siblings.
Yeah, so my family, all of us, we're always in touch. I live far away, but FaceTime each other, call each other for birthdays, call each other just randomly. But growing up, competitive family, we all play sports. Just like my dad, we played football, soccer. My other brother played baseball. He played football, soccer, and baseball. And then my youngest sister also played. She was a soccer player and a track runner. So being the town we grew up in is a very small town. So growing up, it was always living in the shadows too of your older siblings. Like, oh yeah, like your brother did this. So going in the same school, same coaches. They always made sure to remind you, it's like, hey, little Frankie or little Augie. And then after you yourself do good in the sports world, then it's like you earned your name.
So speaking of sports, you moved to Baltimore because of sports?
So I came after high school, I went to the junior college, College of the Sequoias, to play soccer. And then I played soccer my whole life. My dad was my coach in high school. And then from there, I forgot exactly what happened. Someone on the football team, the kicker, got hurt. And I knew the coach because I played with his son. So he said if I wanted to play football and soccer at the same time, I said, sure, why not? Soccer was my priority. And then after that, after 2 years of playing football and soccer, I was in geography class, and I got a phone call from my coach saying there's someone here from Morgan State who wants to talk to you. And they said they liked my film, and they're like, do you want to come to Baltimore? I was like, is it going to be free? They're like, yes, full ride scholarship. I was like, okay. And I visited Baltimore in December. And then a week later, I was like, I'll be here. So I was the kicker punter. And within a month, I decided to come to Baltimore. So it all happened pretty quickly.
Yeah. Did you meet your wife in Baltimore?
Yeah, she was a softball player. She was on the softball team, and that's when I transferred in. That's when we met.
When you mentioned she was from Panama, I was interested, and I want to ask a question. Like, is there anything unique you think to having that type of relationship where somebody is first generation American and the other is an immigrant?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot of things that I learned from her too, and a lot of like just jokes. I was like, you remind me a lot of my parents because they all went. She has similar story. She immigrated here, I believe, when she was 10, and that's the same time my parents immigrated here. But just, I think when growing up, my parents shielded a lot of like their immigration struggles with me, but she actually started me on the activism trial working with CASA. So I think just, learning a lot from her and just having a different perspective on a lot of things has really helped me grow into the person that I'm becoming today.
That's beautiful. So moving on to Baltimore, what changes have you seen, if any, in the Latino population over the years that you've lived here?
So as I lived here, me personally, I've seen a lot in the sense that, I came here as a college kid. I stayed in this Morgan State bubble. I didn't really leave anywhere. I didn't have a car. I took the Morgan shuttle when I had to go to like different places. So for me, in this in the area that I was at, I didn't. I saw Latino families here and there, but it was really when I started working with CASA where like my eyes opened up just like how big the immigrant population really was here in Baltimore. But since then, I've working with CASA, just the growth of how much family members live here, and just but seeing the growth and the impact and all the contributions that the community makes for Baltimore.
And when did you start working with CASA?
I started working with CASA after I graduated, January 2014.
Okay. How do you characterize the Latino community in Baltimore?
In Baltimore, I would say that, the Latino community is very resilient, hardworking, but also passionate. Working with CASA, I've had the honor to work with a lot of Latino and immigrant family, working class families. But I think that just seeing the way families overcome a lot of barriers that are systemically hard to receive a lot of needs that they need, but also the way that families advocate for themselves. We usually see here, like, the way I see is like the immigrant community, like, sometimes they're seen like as victims or pobrecitos, but they're like a very powerful, resilient community. And it's when they see something that should change, they're the ones who are advocating and seeing how things can change here within the city that they came to love. They may have came from out of the country, but they're here working, opening up businesses, paying their taxes. So this is their home.
Do you have an example of the resilience you see in the community, like a specific story?
Yeah, since I would say just recently, as of last year, we within the statewide immigrant families will go to Annapolis and fight for healthcare access for everybody, regardless of their status. And then from that, now everybody in Maryland is able to buy health insurance through the Maryland Health Exchange. So things like that, seeing that there's a big barrier to health insurance and how you're able to mobilize and change the hearts of people. So it's not just showing up and doing rallies, but people are actually sharing their stories, giving that personal story. It's not just numbers. It's people are actually being affected here, going through locally, just different campaigns, having language access for everybody. Something as simple as making sure that agencies have multilingual languages. So it's not and then just a partnership with different non-Spanish speaking groups. So it's just the coming together and forming the people power.
In what ways do the various Latino groups relate to one another in Baltimore?
Can you give me an example of what you mean?
Like, is it one big Latino community, or is it like Dominican Republicans, Mexicans, like... Got it. No, I would say, there's no like one broad general answer for it. And also, like, me myself, I always like to say that, like, I just speaking through my experience. I don't speak as the whole Latino community as a whole, Baltimore City, and just here as Earvin, not representing like everybody. But I would say, like, through my eyes, it's really like neighbors and stuff is like pockets of where they live. So it's like if you live in Southeast, your Southeast community, and coming together. And again, I have a different lens, and that when I interact with a lot of our community members, it's through my work, and a lot it's again, when we do services or we need volunteers, or we go to actions, it's different Latino community members, Latinx community members coming together for a similar fight. So for fighting for a benefit federally that may only be accessible for a certain country, you still see other people that it might not directly benefit me, but I know it's going to benefit other people. So it's I see it in a different way because that's just the work that we do. How do elected officials treat the larger Latino community
in Baltimore?
In Baltimore.
Yeah. No, I would say that it's always improving. Like, we have very strong elected officials. We have the mayor's office of immigrant affairs that really strives to make immigrant family members included in the city, feel included, feel welcoming. Baltimore City's has the welcoming city designation, but also the city council. A lot of the city councils do make very strong efforts to ensure that the Latino community is being representative, and again, having that safe space and responding, and always improving, as everything could always continues to improve. But I would say in Baltimore City, we're pretty fortunate to have strong leadership on that end. And when it comes to and the community members are the ones who are electing our officials as well, so they're able to see and communicate with elected leaders and seeing who is able to benefit them, but not just as a Latino community as a whole, but all of Baltimore.
So coming from Texas, Maryland seems to be more hospitable to immigrants. Mm-hmm. How well does reality match that?
Yeah, no, it's definitely compared to other states, Texas is a little tough sometimes. But I would say there's a lot of benefits here in Maryland that is accessible for immigrant families. Here, if you pay your taxes for 2 years in the state of Maryland, you qualify for a driver's license regardless of your documentation status. So you can get a driver license or a state ID. There's in-state tuition for the MPAC for, again, regardless of your status. If you graduated from from a high school here in Maryland, there's the mayor's, again, another Baltimore City thing. There's the Mayor Scholars Program that if you graduate from a Baltimore City high school, you qualify for scholarships to go to BCCC, the community college, Baltimore City Community College. So there's the health exchange coming up. So there's a lot of benefits to here. You know, there's tax credits that you're able to receive as well, but continue to improve. You know, that's something that we're fighting now at the local level, at the state level, ensuring that executive orders being passed don't affect the state of Maryland. The Sensitive Locations Act, the current climate, ensuring that ICE can't go into public schools, churches, hospitals, anything that's considered a safe space. So it's definitely has its advantages, and continuing with the power of the community, continue to see how we could continue to make Maryland an even stronger place and welcoming for immigrants.
So now I'm going to ask some questions about your current job at We Are CASA.
Mm-hmm.
On your website, your mission statement is to create a more just society by building power and improving the quality of life for all immigrant working class communities. What about that resonates the strongest for you? And that might not be the whole mission statement.
No, definitely. I think for me, the strong is just continuing to work with community members, and how CASA has expanded. When we first started and we were in the 80s, it was formed for Central Americans fleeing the Central American Civil Wars. But now CASA as a whole there's no acronym, it's just CASA, but we don't just serve immigrant Latino families, just really serve all immigrant communities, working class families, to create that change. And at CASA, where we don't decide what services we do, what we advocate for. It's the people. You know, they're the ones who meet with our community organizers. They're the ones who say, like, this is what we should advocate for this year, locally, federally, statewide, nationally. So it's really people driven, and we as staff like to see ourselves as just guiding people and how we're able to support, but it's really people driven, and I think that's what I really appreciate about working with CASA. It's because I work on the services end, so we know that services is very essential, but it's really just a quick relief or a band-aid on larger systemic issues. So the way that we're able to incorporate our services with our community organizing and creating that changes, it's always cool to work with. And my family immigrated here, so seeing although they shielded me from a lot of the struggles, I'm learning more about what they went through. So seeing that even since my parents were here, there's always a need to continue to serve family members.
Is there anything about your parents' struggles that you want to share?
Yeah, just my mom, the way she's the first, I think she's one of the first people that graduated college from her family. So the initial stigma of like, you shouldn't go to college, you need to work, you need to provide for, like, you need to work is important. My dad coming here and just all the different side jobs that he had just to be able to provide, going through the immigration citizenship process and just coming here not knowing the language. So all that is just, I don't know how they did it with 5 kids. They don't tell me, but it's like, wow, I don't know how y'all did it. They were married at a very young age, and look where they are now. So I think that's always like motivation and inspiration. Just like, that's where me and my siblings came from. Like, not only that, but then with my grandparents, farm workers. Recently, my grandma was telling me she was making like $2 an hour picking fruits, driving 4 hours away to farms, picking fruits and coming back. My grandpa recently passed away from cancer, so hearing like all the stuff he did is like, dang, like this powerful community members. Like my grandpa was, yeah, he did a lot of, again, farm work, had all these had 4 kids, and I don't know how they did it working in the farms, but they did it.
So back to We Are Casa, during COVID, how did that affect your organization, and in what ways was Casa able to support Latinos during COVID?
Yeah, so during COVID, our organization model kind of shifted during COVID. We did advocacy and direct services, but during COVID, we noted, everything was closed. So what we did is we partnered with some local businesses to provide fresh food, and beans and rice meats to families. So what we did is, and this was across our footprint, not just in Baltimore. We did it in Pennsylvania, Virginia. So social distancing, we packed fruits into little baggies. The people who are working from home, they had a list of community members, and we had a lot of volunteers. So we would pack the food, put it in the volunteers' car, and gave them 5 houses. And they would deliver food every day or every other day to people, probably like 200 to 300 houses a week. And then the people from home were calling them and saying like, hey, your food's outside. So it's like we became kind of a food delivery service. And then from there, as restrictions started lessening, we had people driving up. If people were unhoused, we would take down, or if they didn't have a car, we would take down where we could meet them at, and then we would take them the food at the end of the day. And then from there, during COVID, we noticed that there is a big fear or distrust within the community about the vaccines. So we partnered up. We started taking people to the convention center to do vaccines. And then from there, we became a vaccine site. And we administered, I want to say, in Baltimore only, over 15,000 vaccinations for community members. And again, it was people were more receptive to it. We were bilingual. They knew us, multilingual. And then from there, just so that was on the services and how we switched. At least in Baltimore, we never did vaccine work. We never really did food work. So that was a big shift in our service model. But knowing that was, at the time, that was a need for the community. And then advocating for community members, to get access to some of the COVID relief that was needed. A lot of our people may not have sustainable jobs, so were laid off, or if they worked, they were always probably the first ones to get laid off as well because of maybe different situations with their immigration status. So being able to advocate for relief for them as well, how we're able to support them in this time of uncertainty and need, because it seemed like it happened so long ago, but it was only five years ago. And I think so that's how we were able to switch our model a little bit, just really focusing on resources, food resources, and COVID vaccines, and how we're able to support families with different services out there, like direct eviction or rental relief, how to navigate the portal. So it was a lot of the humanitarian services that we started focusing on.
How is CASA and the work it does affected by current federal government's immigration policies?
Yeah, with the current stuff, I don't work on that side, on the development side, but we always, just standard, always make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, and making sure that everything that we do is always checked. So in case there's ever some type of audit, we have like everything prepared. So there's probably some threats, but right now we're just focusing on whatever. Nothing has changed for us, so just continue to do the services as we can, and whatever documentations we need to show the work that we're doing. Just always staying tight on documentation retention. But yeah, nothing has changed for us as of now. So we just continue to do services how we've been doing them.
And y'all continuing to advocate, like you said, with the ICE raids to make sure that they...
Yeah. So definitely continue to advocate. Like I said, my colleague was going to be here, but they're in Annapolis right now with the current administration. We've did initially the day after the elections, our phones were ringing because people were scared, nervous. But then I want to say probably like after 2-3 days, you were able to see the shift, and like people were still scared and nervous, but now they were very like motivated. Okay, it's like now we know that the government might be after our community members. What can we do to protect ourselves? How can we defend ourselves in the sense of like knowing our rights? Like how can we advocate? Who do we need to push locally at the state level to continue to fight for us? And a lot of our allies reached out as well. Baltimore, like I said, is very supportive. So a lot of allies came out saying, how are we able to support you all during this time? So we set up a raid hotline. If you see ICE, like call the hotline. So we are able to assist where we can, partnering with different organizations. And then we've been doing a lot of Know Your Rights. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of Know Your Rights with, just so people are aware of what their rights are.
So CASA is nationwide. Mm-hmm. In what ways is CASA's work impacted by being in Maryland, so close to the capital?
Yeah, so it's being so close to the capital, it's easy to go to DC a lot whenever there's like cases being heard that could affect immigration, or when we have actions. It's just being so close to the capital really gives us that access to mobilize, especially here in our Maryland and Virginia offices, sometimes PA too. But yeah, it just makes it easier to mobilize in front of the White House and really show that the community, and showing those numbers of how people are against some other things. So I think that's one of the benefits. We see a lot of other organizations that join actions with us, and they have to take buses from New York, Atlanta, maybe send some representatives and fly in. So I would say for us, that's like the biggest advantages. It's only, if there's traffic, 2-hour drive, usually like an hour and a half bus ride. And so it's very, very accessible.
And then finally for CASA, what has been the most rewarding part of working with CASA?
For me, the most rewarding part is just one of the things, since I've been working at CASA so long, I started as a citizen, someone who prepares citizenship applications. So seeing people come back and like, oh, like I became a citizen, like I thank you. Like someone came in like 2 weeks ago, and she's like, I remember you when you had shorter hair and no beard. Like you helped me like become a citizen. And then just again, I think always learning from the community members, just hearing their stories, like because again, we develop a big trust with them, like within our advocacy and service work. So as we're in tax season right now, so we may be doing someone's taxes, and they just start telling you about how their life was, like what they do about it. So I think just learning from the community, and just seeing again that constantly under attack, but the resilience is like, there may be a fear of ICE raids, but I got to go to work. I got to support my family. I got to do this. So I think just all that pressure, and seeing just how the community not only goes to work, but then they also fight back. I think that's always just amazing to see.
So now we're going to go into more about the bridge collapse.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your first thought when you heard about the collapse and the construction workers who had fallen into the water?
No, yeah, my first thought was, I don't know, it was crazy. It was like, I remember seeing it and it didn't seem real. It was just like, how does a bridge just collapse? And then first thought was like, where there's cars on the well, where there are cars on there, like where people are driving. And then as more news came out and they started saying like workers, like right away, it's like, oh man, it could possibly be immigrant workers, because construction is where a lot of our community members do work. So I think that was the initial, once I saw the cops were there, they stopped cars from going on, but people were working on the bridge. I was like, oh man, it could be immigrant workers, and seeing how just continuing to wait and see, and seeing like what seeing that. And then that same day, maybe the next day, that same day we called people. As some names started coming out, we were able to call people within our membership and seeing if they were related, in case we were able to help them on a humanitarian sense, like what kind of support do people need. And there is vigils across Baltimore. I think initially was the shock, and then seeing if, as names came out, like if we're able to call people and see. But not only even before the names came out, we using some. It happened in Brooklyn, so we would call CASA members from the Brooklyn area and say like, "Hey, like, do you know anyone with your family?" Like again, and seeing where we were able to support in that humanitarian side.
And what were y'all able to accomplish?
We were able to. Two of the folks were CASA members. We partnered, again, I'm sure you spoke to some of them already, but we partnered with Catalina from the city, Juliana from the county, Myra, who's in the other room, and really saw how we could work together and bring some type of support to the family. So, a local community organization, Latino Racial Justice, did a big GoFundMe. They got a lot of money. We worked with Esperanza and the county and the city to provide support and the visas, to how we were able to bring family members from the different countries on emergency visas. And a lot of our elected leaders were very crucial help in that, in the sense that to make it go faster, within like the state of Maryland, the federal, like some of folks in the Senate was very, very, very helpful. We were able to do, I believe, like over 35 visas for family members to come to say their final goodbyes. The way we did it was we did the visas for the family members, and then Myra and her team, did the flight arrangements. Again, the visas were hard as they were, but flight arrangements for a lot of those people, I always tell Myra, I was like, I don't know how you did it. You're like a travel agent and giving people like your therapy. Is like we all wore different hats, but again, it was like the coming together at the local, state, and like federal to ensure that during this tragedy, the families were able to bring members to at least say their final goodbyes. And it was really, one thing was like, there was a super devastating, unfortunate event, but some of the families did share that, they're like, my husband or my partner, like, he brought my family together. I haven't seen my family from El Salvador in 25 years, or I haven't seen my family. So it was like, within this tragedy, family was able to come together for the first time in a long time.
So yeah, that family wasn't able to come due to visa. So like,
right, due to visa. Because that's the thing. Sometimes with visas applications, depending on what country you're from, it could take like 20 years to get an interview to see if you're even going to get the visa. So, yeah. So a lot of the family members are like, aside from FaceTime or WhatsApp phone calls, I've never, like, I finally like got to hug my sibling.
That's so crazy. Someone has to die for you to be able to see your family. Oh my God.
What did the mainstream media miss in reporting about the collapse?
If anything.
Honestly, on my end, I paid attention, but not as much because we were so focused on the families and like providing sort of like that was like just very like all like we were working so much for these visas and like provide support. I do remember my families would call me and say like how are you doing, like and just like at least I'm like saying like 'cause I know like my parents were like, isn't that the bridge we go to, like, and I was like, yeah. So it was like that shock of how close to home it was. But I think just nationwide, I mean, maybe like some of the dangers too of just like construction work, that like there needs to be more safety regulations, and because it is a dangerous job, the construction work. But for the most part, nationally, I would say on my end, I was just really hyper focused at the time on just the relief and trying to stay away from the media, because it was like very like all the videos that were being shown, and like all new information was just very like exhausting.
I can imagine. So you went a little bit into this next question, but do you think the Baltimore bridge collapse exposed larger issues about infrastructure and safety of construction workers? And if so, what do you think can be done?
Yeah, and that definitely, like, I don't know what could have changed to avoid that, but I think that they're definitely, it just highlighted, after the bridge collapse, we had a press conference at our office. A lot of construction workers came in solidarity, and some spoke about their experiences like working in construction and the dangers of it, and how just maybe construction, but it's still a dangerous job, and seeing like how you can do better wages, more stronger and enforceable safety guidelines. But yeah, I would say that accident wasn't just heard within like the immigrant community, but like all people who work in those levels. So there were some stories that were shared that were pretty powerful. But yeah, and then just I mean, that's it.
Is there any stories that stuck with you?
Yeah, I remember this. It was a woman. I was thinking of the press conference we did, and the woman, she worked in construction, and she was sharing that how she fell off a ladder, and I think that one again was powerful, because when people think of construction workers, they think of men. So it's like when seeing that like the diverse field within construction workers and the dangers. I think that one always sticks to me, because there's other people are like, when she walked up to the podium, some people were like shocked. I was like construction worker. So, but yeah, that one's something that sticks with me. And then within the families, just the affected ones, just their whole world turned upside down, and they managed a lot of different things, a lot of struggles, barriers, trying to figure out like who's gonna provide now, like how are we gonna find this work. Not only that, but just like some people are just like, I lost like my other half. Like I've been with them for so long, I don't know what to do. So it's like all of that is just, it just goes to earlier to just like how resilient like immigrant community members are. It was the initial sadness, and then they were going like, what can we do now? Like, how can we bring my family over, like, to visit? So it's like they were planning a funeral while yeah, it was just tough.
You mentioned something about enforceable safety.
Mm-hmm.
What did you mean by that? Like,
Just again, I'm thinking of the press conference, and some of them were saying like there is safeties, but sometimes it's not followed. Like, so it's like that's what another person in a press conference that shared is like there's like safety protocols, but sometimes, you know, if it gets too busy or like your shortcuts being taken, so how can it be better enforced? And training too, like how can the company's training be better to make sure that these are also being enforced? Like it could be that managers, you know, don't even know about about some of these things. So how can all this be better for construction workers?
Do you feel that the local or federal government officials have done enough to support the affected communities?
From the bridge?
For the bridge collapse, yeah.
I think that so the affected communities too. So there's so aside from the directly impacted family members, you know, there was the people who worked on the bridge, the people who local shops around the bridge as well. And I do know that there was efforts to do like there was I forgot what it was, but it was like a one-time payment that you can apply for through the state or through the city to try to give some type of relief. There is different support, and I know there's a lot of organizations just doing helping bring employers, recruitment, giving out food within that area that was by the bridge. And then in the beginning too, like I said, there is a lot of support through the state and federally to really bring these visas, and through the local counties to bring these visas to the family members to make sure that they're getting the right support, humanitarian, mental health. So there is a big effort to continue to, you know, to ensure, you know, some family members had businesses, so how we were able to do the renew like business licenses and stuff like that. So I would say that, yeah, I think it was good. There was communications with us and the state to, you know, make sure that when families were getting updates, and, you know, the mayor, I still remember his press conference in the morning, and someone had asked him about how long do you think the bridge is going to take to get rebuilt, and I still remember his response was it was like at 3 and it was right away. He's like, right now the bridge will get built, but right now our main focus is locating the bodies. And I remember watching that, I really appreciated that, because it was like a lot of people went in like, the bridge is going to cost this much money, who's going to pay for it, what is it? Like, and it was like, no, let's give these families closure before any of that happens. We lost humans, let's find them, and then we could go into the larger economic picture. So yeah, that really stuck with me when he said that in an area. Like, yeah, that's good. Thank you, Brandon.
And then what do you think still needs to be done regarding the bridge collapse?
Bridge collapse, what needs to still be done? I think, you know, it's 1 year and about 2 weeks. I believe it was the 26th. So I think what still needs to be done on the, obviously, with like the economic and everything, like the bridge, like all that needs to be done. But I think like on the more human sense is just trying to see what the families need still. You know, it's been a year. We want to ensure that we continue to see what support they need. We don't want to just be, we helped you right away and then like now now we're not helping you anymore. And then also, you know, I'm not sure if you all know this, but CASA is also representing some of the families in the lawsuit. So saying the justice that the families could get as well. But yeah, I think there's still more to go, but definitely there's different aspects. The economic side, that's other things, but I think when it comes to like the families and their needs, really following their lead and what they want, I have ideas of like, oh, this could happen, but like really seeing like what do you need and how can we continue to meet to be of support. We're still in conversations. We just started back meeting again. Was probably the same people here interviewing and seeing like how like let's continue to check in and seeing where it's at that we could continue to support the family members.
You probably can't say much, but the lawsuit is against the government?
I don't know. That's
Okay.
I don't know that part.
Okay. And then I have one more question back to the job part. What has been the most... Wait, not that part. What specific programs or initiatives within CASA do you feel most passionate about, and why?
What was it?
What specific programs or initiatives within CASA do you feel most passionate about, and why?
Just as CASA as a whole? Or within the bridge?
This is back to CASA.
Oh, back to CASA. Yeah. Okay. No, I think what initiatives that I'm most proud of is, or that I'm always like happy to see, is just I really enjoy like in Baltimore after school programming, because it's a way that we're able to help first generation, second generation immigrants with not only their studies but leadership development, and how because the youth always are the future, lead the way. So the future activists here in the cities, I think seeing how similar struggles, a lot of them just got here and may not know the language, and how we're able to support them. And then after years in the program, they get scholarships, they're going to college, first one's going to college, overcoming those barriers of sometimes pressure from parents saying like, you need to work, like we need to make money. And then, just always seeing the collective of people who may have come in to get some type of social service, and then they learn more about CASA, and then I see them at a rally. It's like, oh, you came to our health clinic to get your eyes checked, and now you're here advocating. So I think seeing that is just like the collective whole that we do holistically.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that you would like to add?
I think just as people watch this, just continue to support immigrant families, Latino families, and so wherever you're watching to, seeing where you can volunteer, participate, and knowing that that the immigrant community and like the mood, they're very powerful. They're and a lot of them are the leaders of their own movement, and seeing how we could take as non-directly impacted people, how we could take a step back and really give that opportunity for people to lead and develop leadership, and just because I know we're talking about Baltimore a lot, but I know that's probably everywhere where there's a lot of strong leaders within the community, and how we're able to give them that chance to shine. And so I think that's it.
Thank you so much for participating in the interview. This concludes our session.
Thank you.